Hello and welcome to Smite Tier List Maker number 3, or part 3. Today we'll be looking at the Warriors. Now I'd like to thank Smite Tier List for having an amazing application for me to be able to use, and I've also just realised after making 2 of these videos already that you can actually change the names of the tier brackets. I didn't know this, and yeah, so I thought, you know what, we're halfway through, we might as well do it. So what have we got? Pink tier down the bottom is removed from the game. Pretty explanatory. Change class is change class. This is the class of people who I think, or gods who are designed for the wrong class and could potentially be moved. Needs looking at in terms of a buff. Pretty easy. All good here. Tier is the B tier, and they're all fine. We're all happy with those sort of gods for their abilities. Needs looking at in terms of a nerf. It means I could potentially have a nerf. Some of their abilities seem a little bit unfair, but we'll get to there. And top tier is obviously your S tier on these gods' ability base. Working together with their own god is just pfft. And this splits down to either going one of the 3 directions, nerf that ability, rework the god, or I'll move you to change class or remove from game. So we're on part 3, and now let's look at our warriors. Warriors, actually, I would say, I think, have the smallest amount of gods to their own, area. But we'll go straight into it and look at our need need buffs. We'll look at need buffs. C tier, I keep forgetting that. Let's go Cyan. Horus. Horus is a very well balanced warrior, and actually I would go as far to say a very well balanced god, being the last only good god release that they had who wasn't drastically broken. And I will back that up, but then again I will back it up and go someone like Baba Yaga, who I don't really deem as broken, so I'll backpedal on that a little bit. The last good old warrior. Horus has a good selection of abilities. His square ability, push you up into the air and fire a tornado at you, can slow enemies down and launch them in the air. His line dash, very effective for stunning the target, and his heal is a very powerful heal, being able to fly towards an enemy and heal them with his, of course, flight. It's a good runaway ability and it's a good heal ability, making him quite a substantial sort of more of a support role warrior than a guardian, than a attacker, which is actually quite a nice benefit because there are a few warriors you'll see on this list who are actually more like a tank than a overall warrior. It does play quite well. Of course, while he is annoying to fight against, as he can fly away quickly, and even only as my grievances in this game, heal and lifesteal need to be looked at, and certain heals need to be removed, having one heal ability for a warrior isn't the end of the world. Warriors are half sort of tank, so that's kind of their role, and we'll be looking at some heals throughout this list. The problem that I think is Horus is his ultimate. Teleport. Now, while it is an amazingly cool ability, you can teleport, fly up in the air, and slowly walk across, teleport into a location, and attack the location. You can bring your team with you, or if you were back in the early days, like myself, use Dashi and teleport Dashi's ult into an area, launch people back into your own base. Thankfully, that was removed because I was a little bit broken. But the problem I have with Horus is when you look at gods who have sort of teleportation abilities or get halfway across the map, they're a lot quicker than Horus. Horus has to stand stationary, not moving, for quite a long period of time. In that form, he is actually quite easily be hit. The problem that you have with Horus is, aside from seeing the light coming so you know where he's going to land, it's very slow. It's very slow for him to move across the map. In terms of a warrior, that actually doesn't make sense for an ult, because there aren't that many warrior-based teleportation. Horus, to be fair, could make sense as being a guardian role, as he has a stun, a knock up in the air, and a heal, and a teleport. He could make sense as a guardian. But the reason why I don't want to move him to guardian is because I think his buff has to have something to do with the teleportation, because he can be hit while he's trying to use it, and even if he's trying to use it, it doesn't go that very far away. Sure, you can use it to attack, you can use it to run away, but it just doesn't seem to fit in with everything Horus provides. So I would suggest either making Horus immune when he's using the teleport, or immune to like well, not attacks obviously, but immune in some way. But it just seems very doesn't fit in with the rest of his abilities. Horus overall is actually a very well balanced warrior, which is why. But I'd like to see him get a little bit of work. Now we come to All Good Ear, mate. All Good Ear. These are the warriors who I think are perfectly fitted for their abilities. Two of these warriors, I am going to botch their pronunciation on their names. My apologies beforehand. Starting with Amaterasu. One of the few warriors I don't have the most time on, but still playing her and going up against her is actually quite fun. Her abilities she has a buff, a dash, a line-based ability, which is throwing her shield at somebody, or her mirror, and her ultimate is a very, very damaging ability. As always, I won't go into too much detail on this tier list, on this line, sorry, but overall, her abilities are very cool. A stun from her ult, a buff, an attack, and a line dash. As a warrior, all of these abilities seem to work very well. While her ultimate is very damaging, and also her being a warrior, she can actually take a lot of damage, I've never had come up against her where she has been insanely broken. The only problem with her is that she doesn't have much in terms of ranged-based abilities. Now what I mean by that is, example, Horus. Horus didn't really need range-based abilities. Knock you up in the air, stun you with a punch, run away and heal. Amaterasu seems to only have a line dash which doesn't stun, it sort of just like disorientates you. Her stun only comes from her ult, which is her cooldown, but of course, with some warriors being able to throw things, some warriors being able to chain you, bring you towards them, doesn't have that many abilities based for damage, damage, damage. Of course, having a buff does really help, and throwing her mirror can sometimes be very helpful, but she's not a very god for massive amounts of damage very quickly. Saying that, she is a very well balanced warrior. Number 2, Ku Kushulain. Kushulain. Kushulain is another very good example of a warrior, but he's very close to being a tier above. And yeah, as similar to Yamoja in our Guardian list, he is one of the only two gods in the game who doesn't have a mana meter. He has a rage meter. The more damage he takes, and I believe the more damage he gives, might have to check on that, he gets angrier. All of his abilities use rage. And all of his abilities are pretty damn good. He has a passive, which almost works the same as Mythical Mail, the item, which is where enemies are near you, they get damage over time. His jump is very powerful, he has a nice little stab, and his ult, in his base form, is very, very strong and very cool to look at. Spin around, knock everybody away. Overall, he is a very good, well-balanced warrior. Now, what makes him even stronger is when he gets full-on angry, he turns into almost like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde character, where he just becomes insanely beefy. His abilities do change, and it works the same as Fafnir, as in, like, multiple abilities. The reason why he's not up higher for the multiple abilities is because his takes a lot longer to build up. Now, in this form, he has a dash, which can stun, he has a roar, which just decimates, he has pound the ground, and I need to double check. I think he does have some sort form of a jump in that ability list. I need to check up on this one. This is a warrior yet again, probably actually my least played warrior, because while I do love to play warriors and guardians, Yamoja is quite easy to work with because her water comes back over time. Kushalin, you have to be in the fight to build up your meter. And that is quite often harder than it looks. And obviously in some games of, like, say for example a Conquest, you don't tend to see him on a lane of solo because it's a lot of power, a lot of responsibility. And now as far as his abilities go, of course you look at abilities and how to use them. You got to be very skillful to use this god because you got to know how to manage your ways. Of course, having a potion, you can't actually replenish the amount of you can't. There's no need for mana. So that's why he's down here. Multiple abilities, not too overpowered. I am going into a lot of detail here, but of course I think it's just the warriors. Quan Yu, what more can you say? Quan Yu, very easy to talk about. One of the starter-based gods for the warriors, he actually has probably one of the most well-balanced starter-free abilities. He has a heal, which is conviction. Aside from healing you, can actually give you a 2-second cooldown on your abilities if you're healed by him. A very well-balanced support base. His dash is very effective. Dash through somebody, it slows them down, and his sword, well, I can't really, spear sort of slice, cleave, slices through lots of enemies and a line of minions, and it's a very, very useful ability. His ult being one of his strongest points is a beautiful runaway ability, or indeed cause a lot of damage. Jumping on his horse and swinging his spear around, causing substantial amount of damage, and at the end of it, causing a stun. Quan Yu is a prime example of a very well thought out warrior. None of his abilities are drastically broken, none of his abilities are also needed to be nerfed. The problem that comes with Quan Yu is overall he's, in the world of Smite, which is why you don't see him, he is a very difficult god to play in terms of trying to play him on a solo. I've tried quite a few times. I love to play Quan Yu in a game of Arena, in a game of Assault, because the heal is very nice. He's quite a fun god to play, but in the role of Conquest, he doesn't really fit in. He's more of a god to get into the fight against multiple people. One-on-one, he is pretty difficult to take on. That being said, Quan Yu is probably one of my favourite warriors in this game because though his abilities are simplistic, he is a massive component to the team. Hercules is, in my list, probably number 5 in my favourites. Another very technical god. His X ability launches rocks down onto the ground, and if you hit the end of it, brings you towards him. His square ability punches you in the face, causing a stun, and if you time them two very well, if you time those two perfectly, it works phenomenally. His circle ability is a heal, smacks the ground with his club and it heals him, giving him an extra buff as well, which is very nice. Hercules is a very, very good god in terms of his abilities, his heal, and overall tankiness of the god. The one thing I say about Hercules is rock throw. Although insanely damaging, the cooldown is great, the actual look of him picking a rock out of the ground and throwing it is cool. It doesn't really fit in with him, I have to say. Because you look at it in terms of push them up, punch them in the face, heal yourself, throw a rock at them, works quite well. But if you miss that and you try and throw a rock, it seems to be the only one that doesn't fit into the chain. Heal and a minor buff, pick them up, punch them in the face, and then throw a rock at them gradually. It's a rock that will just roll away, quite easy to actually move out the way of. It's so much of, it can work with Hercules, but there's a lot to also say it won't. The amount of times I've fought against a Hercules or seen a Hercules, he's thrown a rock, bounced off a wall and just rolled the opposite direction. But that being said, he's still an amazingly fun warrior to fight. Nike is another one who I was very, very tempted to actually put higher on the list. But we're going to get into why not. Nike's square ability is just a line-based ability. Smack the ground a couple of times. The range on that ability is actually quite alarming. Very close to me putting her up higher. Her jump ability, similar to that of someone like Barkus, can actually push people up in the air. And when a jump ability does that, it actually can cause problems, stopping a person from running away. Prime example, as I haven't spoken about him yet, or these two, Sung Wukong has a similar jump ability in terms of his ult, and Odin has a jump ability. The problem being that when they land, it doesn't push anybody up in the air. Nike, her shield is insanely strong, summoning a light barrier shield which can push people back and block people's attacks. That being said, those three abilities seem to be insanely broken. The only reason that she's not is because her ult is a buff. Rather than her ult being like a rock throw, a stun, a dash, massive amounts of damage, it does give her a buff. Gives her a buff in health, damage, all that and all around. It's similar to that of someone like Terra. Of course, doesn't do that much, or think any heal at all. But for me, it's do all of her abilities work and make sense? Because Nike had a massive increase, a massive buff quite a while back. And to be fair, yes, they really do. While they're annoying to fight against, does that make her indestructible? No. In a game of solo, precisely, a game of conquest, she's not indestructible to fight against as a warrior. She doesn't have a particularly very. She doesn't actually have a heal for that sort of reasoning. Her ranged abilities are pretty good, but you can move away. And in the middle of a fight, she's also like a Quan Yu. She's in the middle of a fight and needs to be in the middle of a fight. But on a solo one-on-1v basis, she's not that great. Also saying that, in games like Clash, for example, and Arena, you don't typically tend to see many Nikes. And I don't know why I say she's a very, very strong god, but it's something that I would say is just her abilities also seem to be very focused. No area-based abilities, unless of course her ult, because yeah. But she's just very, very easy, or not very easy, very fun to play with her abilities. And my opinion doesn't need a nerf or a buff. She's fine. Odin, I used to love him. Odin used to be one of the worst warriors in the game back when I first started to play. But it was so hard to see how. Because all of his abilities, one of the few gods in the game who I would say all of their abilities work so well with one another. I mean, his X is a shield that, if of course you're in the vicinity of it and it blows up, it causes damage to you. His square is a lunge. With the X ability, jump, land causes a massive amount of damage and is so cool to use. His circle used to be the spin around, which I do miss. Same as Thor. Thor's ability, I will give a shout out because I'm not doing a Smite video. Thor's old ability, I miss so much his circle. Please bring it back, Smite. Or High Res, I miss it. But Odin's now newer version is very strong in that he can hit enemies around him for 3 rings and then throw his spear at them, causing a stun if it hits. Of course, doing that after you've done the jump, still very effective. And his cage, while has been nerfed over years, being from it used to be invincible, the only way to get out of it was jumping over it or using a phantom veil, to now you can actually hit them. But Odin in general has one of the few warriors where they all work in tandem and they're very, very cool to use. Odin, a very nice god. Osiris is another one who I would, again, going back onto it, all of his abilities seem to work again in tandem. Oddly enough, both right next to each other. Osiris' square ability is he throws his axe at you. If it hits you, it does slow you down. His X ability is a perfect clearer and also free area to shoot. It's just a small area drop that comes down and hits you. His circle sends out a small, like, ghost tether which attaches to you. If he stays close enough to you and long enough, it actually stuns you. And his ult is probably one of my favourite ults for what it does. His ult of jump in the air, land on you, screaming at the top of his lungs. But the reason why it's so important is because it takes away all heal abilities for I think roughly between 7 to 9 seconds. I can't remember precisely how long. But for that, in the area where I hate lifesteal on certain gods and heal on most gods, or the other way around. Sorry, heal on most gods, lifesteal on near enough every god. And to take away all aspects of heal in general is a very cool ability. Problem with Osiris is, yet again, he's one of the few who's not picked massively in the world of casual. While he does have a lot of abilities, I think he has the same problem as Quan Yu, as that he's, in a big fight, he could be quite useful. In one-on-one, he's very useful. But it's very odd because I don't see people pick him. I never pick him in a game of Conquest, but I pick him in other games because he's actually a lot of fun to play. But as far as his abilities go, all of his abilities seem to work, and a lot of them have a lot of decent effects. Now, I will get onto this in a moment, when we go up the list. For some unknown reason, Smite or High-Res have decided the more abilities somebody has, the more effects a person they need. Which doesn't make sense to me. And what I mean by that is, for some reason, the effects that have already existed in the game, say one god has an effect, another god has an effect, For some reason, more and more gods are getting more and more effects. So say, for example, Kuan Yu has maybe 2 effects, like a slowdown and a stun for 2 abilities. But now more and more gods are getting more effects for multiple abilities, and we're going to get onto somebody like that in a bit. Right, 2 tiers down. Next, potential needs nerf. Now these people can either be dropped down or up, depending on how I feel. Achilles. What can I say about Achilles? He's actually a very fun god to play. Problem. We'll get to the problem very shortly. But we'll start off small. His passive, we do have to mention, he can switch between no armor and some armor, which do greatly differ in his abilities. Some can affect his attack speed, his movement speed, and overall damage he can take. His dash, pretty nice. Dash, stab, dash, stab, dash, stab. It's annoying, more like an assassin's build than a warrior's build, but okay, fine. His stun, very effective, and his passive buff, I would say, is when he hits somebody with an ability, it actually heals him. Is that an annoying heal factor? No, because it seems insanely useful. The only reason Achilles is up here is because he's going to be up here for the same reason why Ao Quan will be insanely high on this list. Instant kill abilities. Now, the only way to dodge these is with a relic, or if you're a certain mage. But the only reason I'm going to put every single one of these on here is because they have something in the game that no one else has. There are 3 gods in the game who have the instant kill ability. Ao Quan, Thanatos, and Achilles. Why I would love Achilles to actually be on the B tier, because I think all of his abilities are very fine, and he's actually a good god to fight against. Saying that, he's still a god who's actually picked quite high in jungle, and I would say he could potentially have a nerf because he has a lot of damage for his abilities. But while I do like him as a warrior, I do have to take into account he has an instant kill ability. Now, I haven't mentioned this throughout any of this because there hasn't been any. And of course, I won't get to mention about Thanatos. Ao Quan I will mention at some point. But Achilles is on here because the instant kill ability, while insanely cool, it is questionable. And what I mean by very questionable is, why does a warrior need it? I always keep coming to this. It's like with the hunters I spoke about the other time. It was, why does a hunter need heal, and why does a hunter need invisibility? A heal doesn't make sense, and invisibility doesn't make sense. While multiple skill ability may make sense, because a lot of gods are tending to have them now. Yet again, and like with a companion, why do they need it? Achilles is the only warrior who has an instant kill ability, and I argue why. Sure, Ao Quan, he can have it. Thanatos can have it. But why give it to a warrior? Unless, was Achilles meant to be an assassin? But, that being said, I'm not going to move him down. I do like him. Bellona. One of the few starter gods in the game who I question is, I put him under the category again of too easy to play. Same as like Neith, Ymir, Ares. They're very easy to play, and true, while they are starter gods, they're supposed to be easy to play. I argue the point that her abilities just don't seem to really be fair. We'll look at them independently. We'll start off with her X, or square ability. It's a small dash, when it can hit you and cause a small amount of damage. She switches to a sword and a shield. Okay. Not the worst thing in the world. It can actually absorb a few attacks and absorb a little bit of damage. Not the worst. Then she moves on to her hammer. When she does the spin and the ground pound, the hammer causes more damage to you and can actually be quite annoying to fight against. And then we move on to her chain ability, which is just so annoying, yet again causing an effect which stops you from using abilities. Now, the reason why Bellona is up here, I'll mention her ult as well. Her ult land on you, gives her a buff and can stun you potentially. The reason she's on here is because of the amount of ability she gets for giving certain effects if they hit. She gets to keep the weapon, and the most important thing is her lifesteal. Her lifesteal with her chain ability is somewhat actually very annoying. And it comes to my argument, why do warriors need lifesteal? Now, fine. Every god in the game is allowed to have lifesteal. Okay, that's fine. I'm not arguing that point. I will argue at some point when I get to it, some gods having too much lifesteal, but that's a video for another day. My argument is, why do warriors have to have an ability that gives lifesteal? Now, we haven't got to three of some of the other gods in the game that I will talk about at some point, but it's why do I don't see them needing it. Sure, they can have a passive heal, they can heal the team, but why do they need lifesteal? Now, the only reason Bellona's on this list is because a lot of her abilities give a lot of different effects, and in a solo game, she is very hard to fight against. Even saying that, taking her on a game of Clash, if she uses the right abilities at the right time, she can actually decimate the entire team, being an insanely strong warrior. And I've always said it, is when you look at two gods, you're both starter gods, and you put them together and go, alright, who would win? Like, because they're the starter gods. They're the ones you're going to get at the start. And I'll do over the ones that we got. Ymir and Ares are relatively both the same. They're both two gods who probably shouldn't be in the roles they are. And they both are very damaging and very effective. Neith and Artemis, both very different ends of the spectrum, but they both actually have near enough the same things. Rather than Neith being able to jump away and Artemis being able to lay down traps. They both are pretty decent hunters for what they can do. Assassins is Thor and Nemesis, very fair. But Kuan Yu vs Bellona doesn't seem to be very fair. I'm not knocking Kuan Yu again, I'm just saying Bellona is a very strong warrior for her abilities. But not the most annoying. My advice would be, could Bellona not have lifesteal? And maybe reduce the just a status effect of some abilities. Now we're going to get to a god like that in a bit. Erlong Shen, one of my another one of the gods I do like to play. I would say personally his first starter 3 abilities are very fine. His square, I've been playing this god for a long time, and I'm God Mastery 4 with this warrior, and I actually don't know what his square does. I'm almost certain it does like an effect, like a hit multiple at once effect. I probably should have researched this one. It just clicked in the back of my head, and I went, "Oops!" I actually don't know what he does. The amount of times when people have gone, "Hey, what does Erlang Shen's square ability do?" and I go, I don't know. I could read it at some point, but I usually read things and then I forget about it. But it's a useful buff that helps him out in a small way. His X ability is he throws his spear at the enemy. It can stun them and root them in place. Very effective. He has a transformation ability where he can turn into a minx. He can run quite quickly. If it hits onto an enemy, it slows them down. Indeed, also giving him a quick attack speed buff. He has a turtle ability where he turns into this weird turtle creature, rolling around. If it hits an enemy, it pushes them up into the air ever so slightly. Also, when he comes out of it, he has a passive little shield, which is very nice. And his ult, similar to Athena, but in an ult form, pulls people towards him to tell them to fight him, and after a certain amount of time is done, he gets a bunch of health back. In fairness, it seems like a very, very well balanced, in terms of abilities, warrior. So why is he up here? Well, it seems to be that it's the amount of heal he gets for his ult that seems to be causing a problem. And he doesn't seem to be fully kitted as being a warrior. Because when I look back at his abilities, I go, okay, fair enough, yeah. Grab and root, alright. A passive buff, alright. A runaway ability and basically hit somebody, slow them down and cause a lot of damage. And then a bring you towards the ult and stab, 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 stab. As far as Erlang Shen goes, he has a lot of abilities that could work as an assassin or indeed a guardian. But yet again, he's just the heel. It's just the heel of Erlang Shen. And this would be backed up, but I do see Erlang Shen being played quite frequently in a game of jungle. Of Conquest, sorry, in the role of jungle. But that being said, it's just the heel that I find of Erlang Shen annoying. But the first one on this level, does that make him broken? No. For me, I just wanted to stress Erlang Shen, his ult, while annoying, does give him a lot of health back. Do I want him changed? No, he seems fine. He's actually quite a fun god to play, and I do like changing into his minx and his turtle. But there is a god. Oddly enough, the very next god, Sung Wukong. I probably would say first favorite god in terms of the warriors. Whew, Wukong. I would say Wukong, Erlong Shen, and one more are only on this level. The needs looking at because of their ult. But let's go into Sung Wukong. He whacks his pole down in a line-based ability, quite effective and quite damaging. Very good to stop people getting away. His X ability is a spin around in a circle. If it hits enemy gods, slows them down. His 72 transformation, he can turn into a bull, which can knock most people out the way, even knock other people's dash away, except for Cthulhu, because Cthulhu just decimates the entire world. And nope, that's the Guardians. We'll talk about them. We've already done it. Let it over there. I keep doing that. Sorry. He turns into a tiger, which if quite actually speedy tiger, if it latches onto you, it causes a stun. And then he turns into an eagle, which he can use to fly away and get out of the battle and fly 5 miles down the road. Overall, he seems to be pretty fun, a very similar god to Erlong Shen. Now, why is he up here? Well, that's because his ult is insanely broken. His ult uses the classic trick. He pulls the hair off of his head, throws it into the battle, the hair becomes his ally, and he sits on a cloud. The cloud's not too annoying, it's just the amount of health he gets back. Wukong I've gotten to God Mastery 8, and even before he had a buff and a nerf, he's still been pretty broken. It's just the amount of heal he gets on that cloud is insane. But does this make Wukong broken? Again, no. While he is insanely strong on that cloud, he gets all of his health back, he can run away and he can stay in the fight. But there's only one reason why I'm putting him down here, is because I'm going to get onto another god and I'm going to compare them. Wukong could come back up, but I'm going to compare him with another god in a minute. Tia, I'm pretty sure I don't need to explain why Tia is up here. Tia is only up here because he has multiple abilities. But Tia is an odd one. While most multi-skill ability gods tend to have 6 abilities, Tia only has 5. Now, what this actually means is that he can switch between either a dash-based... I'll tell you what it is, but you probably know. Its circle ability can switch between a blue blade or an orange blade. In his orange blade form, he can run up to somebody, slicing his sword along, and carry them with him. Then he swipes with his sword, keeping them in the air. His blue-based ability is a dash line that can push people out the way, and when he slices with it, can cause him to have a lifesteal effect. Now, while unlike Bellona, is that very effective? No, it doesn't really serve that much of a purpose because you have to swing between 2 abilities. Unlike every other god in the game, they have 4 abilities they can use. 3 abilities they can use and then use their ult. Tia has 2 abilities he can fling between and then an ult. Sure, if he works it out perfectly, he can actually get away with, okay, dash, slash, switch, dash, slash, ult. So he has 5. But then it's the problem of how effective is he? And he is probably the only one of these in the game I'm going to say right now is not broken. Because Tia is a very odd one. His orange sword is probably a lot stronger than his blue one. Because while he can carry you along, slice you in the air to stop you running away, he can switch to his blue, cause lifesteal, but then if he dashes into you, it pushes you up in the air. Oh, hello, update. That is yes, I shall look into that later, thank you. In fact, perfect timing, update, thank you for that. Where was I? Oh yes, Tia. Yes, but he seems to have not, like most multiple skill-based abilities, you could probably use all 6 at once. Tia, you can't. And also, while his ult is very effective, it's not insanely useful, or better yet, suited for him. His ult seems to be a jump in, and then you can do a dash, but his ult isn't actually that effective. His passive is insanely overpowered in that he can ignore other stun-based abilities for 1 second, which is a very nice ability. But when you break him down, he does have 3 abilities that he can use, but he's all similarly one set ability, which is a dash and a slice. That's all he really has. While he can do it twice, he doesn't actually have that much. So that's why Tia is down here. And I will say that potentially he is actually a good god to play. But it's just his lack of a different type of abilities. I never thought I'd do that, where I take a multiple skill god and have to put him down on a lower level, or her. Right. Varmina. Another one who his ult is just God. We'll start off Star. His dash ability is very effective. Run through a crowd of minions, run through anyone, faster than a speeding bullet, he'll get away from you. His X ability is like a line-based ability. I don't exactly know what he does. He swings his umbrella or something and it just shoots out leaves or something. I don't know what it actually is, but he does something. Which is very nice, a small area effect. Then he actually throws his umbrella like a boomerang, slices through enemy gods. If it hits an enemy god, slows them down, and it comes back to you. Now, why is Varmina broken? Press triangle, your god. Similarly to Fulu and Jormungandr, press triangle and your god. But unlike Fulu and Jormungandr, it's on a timer that has to be very clever timer. And it's, you only stay as big and tanky as you are the longer you hit somebody. Of course, it has its usual cooldown of when you run out, but the longer you're actually hitting somebody, the quicker you can stay. Now, while this is a very nice ability, when you build it with lifesteal, passive heal, you can go from 1 HP to 100 HP. And I know because I've done it. Varmina is another one who I've got to God Mastery 5, and he is a very, very, very strong warrior. Now, that being said, that all done and dusted, Varmina, we all know why he's up here. Varmina versus Wukong. Who actually has the better ability? Or better overall abilities? Actually, Varmina. While Wukong sitting on his cloud is a exceedingly annoying ability, he does have to wait up there to heal. Varmina can still keep attacking you while in his form. Sure, Wukong has sent down his hair to attack you, but his hair can't actually do abilities. Varmina still can use... He can't use abilities, but he can heal, he can lifesteal, he just has a massive amount. And they both have relatively similar based abilities. While Wukong has a stun, Varmina has a dash which can actually beat Wukong's. So, that's why Varmina is up here and Wukong is down here. Similarly, Erlong Shen. I put it in the tier list of those. Erlong Shen has the smallest amount of heal, then Wukong, then Varmina, in terms of their ult. So that's why he's up here. Now, that being said, Varmina is only up here because of his ult. And I feel so bad to say that does it need a nerf? Yes, it does. He is insanely annoying to fight against. Because the thought that goes through your head is, I've got to kill him quickly. But the longer you try and kill him, the longer his ability lasts. And with, of course, him building movement speed, lifesteal, it's a very hard thing to fight against. And, of course, ignoring the fact that you've got no relics. But even without lifesteal, or any items, Varmina still can get a lot of health back. Right. Okay. We're done. Needs big nerf / rework. Now, these gods up here, the last 3 gods in our warriors. We're going to start off strong. Chuck. Kind of feel bad about saying this. I love you, Chuck, whatever your name is. My favourite warrior in the entire game. Wukong, as much as I love you, Chuck, you're actually a lot higher. Chuck is just insanely strong in terms of the warriors. first warrior I ever got to Gold Mastery 10, and I have to show why. Square ability is his axe throw, which is his main cause for two of his abilities. The second of his ability is a axe swing around your head. While it doesn't, of course, stun people or slow people down, if he throws his axe and it lands, he can press X and teleport to his axe, still swinging it around. It is a perfect also runaway ability, as he will teleport directly to it. He won't gradually walk to it, he'll fly across the map. His Rain Call ability is very, very effective, being one of the strongest heals for a warrior. And even more effective is when you use Rain Call, it slows enemies down in your vicinity. But, yet again, throw your axe and use Rain Call, you get Rain Dance. And Rain Dance affects that the area you've put your axe in is now even slower to move in. And you heal while the person you're fighting is very slow. Now, those abilities aside make Chuck very, very strong. What makes him even stronger is his ultimate, which is press triangle and thunder and lightning smash the ground. That ability causes a massive amount of damage and indeed causes other gods to not be able to use abilities and to not be able to use relics. Which is not too bad. When you think of your ability. The problem is the area of effect he gets. Similar to that of an effect of a Cthulhu, when he drops something like that and it's like a massive effect. Chuck can float freely around when he does it. He can just fly, bang, cause damage. It causes a massive amount of damage. Of course, it stops you from using abilities or getting away. And it's just so damaging and effective. The radius he can do it. If you're trying to run away, bang. If you're all fighting him at once, bang. And while you think about it in a 1v1 situation, Chuck is very strong in a 1v1. Imagine him taking on that in a game of Clash or Arena. The enemy team's trying to attack Apophis. He jumps in, bang, stops them from doing anything. So how I would say the best way to fix Chuck is, or better yet, should I say it? Do I think he needs to be changed? No. Do I think he needs to be removed? No. What I think Chuck could potentially do with is shorten the radius of his ult and reduce the amount of heal he gets. Seems to be a problem nowadays with certain warriors and certain other gods that the amount of heal they get is ridiculous. Now saying that, building lifesteal with Chuck, as I will say, is actually not recommended. However, just building heal with him is. But there you have to say that Chuck, mate, easy way to fix you. Just reduce your ult, and he's potentially could be dropped down to here because it is very small tweaking that needs to be done. The only problem is it's tweaking that needs to happen. But my most important question, is he the most broken warrior? No. Do you know who the most broken warrior is? King Arthur. For God's sake. King Arthur. Multiple skill ability. I've always said that you're going to be like an A tier, or maybe needs nerfing, but King Arthur is beyond fiction. He's beyond everything. Not 6 abilities. No. He doesn't have 6 abilities. He has 8 abilities. So people like Artio, Earl, Fafnir, how have I Tia? He just spoke about him. All of you lot, get out of here. I have 8 abilities. Now let's go over those 8 abilities. I don't know the hell what they're called, but I'll tell you what they are. Let's start with his slashes or his square ability. Throws his sword. No, he doesn't. He slices his sword down, which causes a blue line to go through, slicing through all the minions and hitting people far away. His orange-based sword ability is slice through a whole horde of people, chopping up and slicing the planet in half. His X-based abilities is his blue one, stamp on the ground, just stamps on the ground and causes splash damage, which actually has quite a far radius around him. His orange-based sword dash is just a sword dash, bonk you up in the air just to annoy you. And then his orange circle slice, or his circle ability, slice his sword around his head 500 times, just moving while he does it, and he can spin around in a circle, just causing every other god on the enemy team to have a Bacchus effect, where they're just getting dizzy. And his blue... that was a lie. He just spins around, causing a lot of damage. And his blue-based slice is just a small little line, but it does still cause damage. But now, this is the most fun. Let's give King Arthur 2 ults. Now, King Arthur has a similar effect to that of the warrior, the Jekyll and Hyde guy, Cuchulainn. He has a similar effect to that of him, where he has to build up damage. Now, it's not damage he's taken, he has to build it up. He has to hit people with his basic or his abilities. So we'll start off with the generic one you start off with, is your sword stab. Now, it's just a basic stun. You go up to them and jab. Now, while it is pretty annoying to hit and doesn't actually go that far, it's still a stun. But for King Arthur, which I do like his ability, is go up to you when it's fully charged, push you up in the air, scream at the top of your lungs for Camelot, and slice you a couple of times and kick you back on the ground. While it's not as damaging as somebody like Nishar, it's still pretty annoying. Now, why is he up here? Why is King Arthur up here? Well, despite the fact he has 8 abilities, he doesn't... The most important problem with King Arthur is he doesn't even need to switch his abilities, because once he uses one ability, it switches to the other. You can get away with 7 abilities all at once. As in, one after another. It is ridiculous. I don't know how King Arthur was ever approved. When he first came out, this was the first god I went up against who was broken beyond all belief. When I'll go back, before King Arthur, I'm pretty sure it was Hera, I might be wrong. Argus was annoying, but you could run away. King Arthur was a warrior who just decimated the entire lobby. He was so dangerous, and it was so alarming to have to take him on. But the problem I have with King Arthur is the amount of effects he gets with his abilities. You get a stun, you get a stop you from attacking, you get a stop you from your abilities. Why does he need that? He already has 8 abilities. Why does every ability need to have an effect? I don't understand that. Why a god who already is insanely broken because he has so many abilities, does he have other effects that latch onto those abilities? In my opinion, King Arthur is the hands down most broken warrior in the game for his abilities. Unfortunately, due to that, it doesn't actually make him the most broken in the game. I will give a quick shout out though, because Tia and King Arthur used to be the 2 strongest warriors in the game. The reason why was there was an item that you could buy that if you used an ability, it gave you more health. Tia having 5 abilities and King Arthur having 8 abilities was pretty effective. Now, do I want King Arthur removed? No. I don't want him removed. Do I want King Arthur changed? Nope, I don't want him changed to a different class. Do I want him reworked or relooked at? Big time. As far as it goes now, he's not an insanely annoying god to fight up against, but he just has so much going for him. 8 abilities. Come on. Every other god has 4. Every multiple skilled one has 6. He gets 8. He's not the most broken for that, though. Don't worry, we'll be coming on to his wizard in his courtroom very shortly in the next video. As it stands, this video, I don't know when this will come up, but I'm pretty sure... Yeah. Oh no, yeah, you can see the date, you can see the time down the bottom. 17th. I haven't actually had that much time. The new Hunter's come out. I was quite happy about that. I haven't had that much time to play against him. I do need to, so I'll look into that. Hope to God I don't cry. Oh, it will be bad. Right. King Arthur's there. Last one. Mulan. Now, why is Mulan up here? For me, Mulan just doesn't add up as a warrior. Her abilities are very weird. Her, well, we'll start off with her most basic ability is her sword slash. Slash, slash, done. Then she has a jab. Then she has a shoot an arrow at you, grab you, bring you towards her so she can slash you again. Okay, not very bad. However, every single one of those abilities has a tier list or a level increase. The more you hit somebody with that ability, the stronger it gets and the more effects it gets. Getting to the point of you can latch onto walls, getting to the point that you get a lot of lifesteal, and getting to the point that you cause even more damage and have even more abilities. Her ult, while insanely effective, is also very annoying to fight against. As in, slice, 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 kick up the ground, shoot an arrow at your face. All of her abilities, for me, personally, they don't really look like a warrior. Because she doesn't really have any, other than her grab ability, she doesn't have any abilities that would really help the team. Or she doesn't have any abilities that really show how strong she is. Aside from having a lifesteal, she doesn't have a buff sort of based ability. For me, Mulan is actually in the wrong role. And I will say, Mulan would make more sense as an assassin. Now, so far in these videos, what I've done, I've made 4 Guardians warriors, or 5, I can't remember how many now. I've made one hunt, or asked to be one hunter to be a warrior, and now I'm saying, and an assassin to be a hunter. I would say that Mulan would make a lot more sense as an assassin. Because the problem you've got with Mulan at the moment, she has a lot of abilities which key to more of an assassin than they do of a warrior. But that's the problem again, because you have a warrior who looks to be more like an assassin, gaining the defense of an assassin and gaining the damage of a warrior. Now, while that isn't, of course, a problem, if you built them more of like a damage doer, you do have a problem on your hands. But the main problem I have with her is she has an ability that almost looks like a guardian slash hunter, where it's grab you and pull you in. No other warrior has an ability like that. There is no... I will go through them. I'll go back through my brain cells and remember what I'm talking about. Aside from Tia. Tia is the only sort of god who can pull you towards them, but she can do it from range. Now, do I want her removed from the game? No. Is she insanely broken? Not to the degree of King Arthur. I still say King Arthur is, for his abilities, the most broken in the game. But Mulan, I don't consider to be a very effective warrior. She's insanely strong as a warrior, but that's the problem. I think it would make sense as an assassin. Now, while a lot of times I have seen people tell me about it, it's like the high res won't change the roles. They did do at one point. I mean, Ravana was a warrior. Thor was a warrior. I think that was because they did a whole switch around. But it's got to the point now where I will mention it on every video, is how did Tsukiyumi become an assassin, not a hunter? How did Cthulhu become a guardian, not a mage? Heimdallr, how did he become a hunter, not a warrior? Because they don't seem to be kitted to any other role. I mean, they changed so much for Heimdallr, which is why when I come to playing Smite, thankfully, for me, I've already said that if this new hunter is broken, I might stop playing. I'll stick to my guns on that one. I'll have to wait until a nerf comes out, because I'm still upset that Cthulhu and Tsukiyumi. I read the patch notes; they haven't been touched. So, but yes, so with regards to the warriors, yep, that's the tier list. As far as everything else goes, we got the mages next, but we'll finish up and talking about this. Right. As far as it goes, I believe Chuck and King Arthur are the 2 strongest warriors in the game. Horus, I would consider, potentially could have a little bit of rework done. Mulan, I want changed to an assassin because of her abilities. That's that. That is your warriors. Next we have the mages. Now the mages might actually be the longest video because how many there are of them. And mages is without doubt the most broken one we will be seeing. And you will be seeing a very angry commentator or creator or whatever I am, whatever role I am currently doing in this video. But we shall wait until the next time, and the next time you hear me, we'll see. I might actually do it. Nah, I'll leave it for another day. Thank you for watching. That's been your Warriors. Tune in. Don't tune in. What am I talking? See you next time for the mages. Bye for now.